Hello, everybody. Welcome to another amazing, lovely, intriguing, thought-provoking, and reaching episode of the Living in Fullness podcast. I am your host, Naki Hlomayi Muteto. So I'm really excited. We've gotten into 2024 and, I am particularly grateful to each one of you who's joined the family, who've stayed with the family, who've subscribed, liked, shared, and commented and interacted on our posts. We're not only looking for amazing comments, we're looking for comments that will help us to improve the podcast so that it's as valuable to you. So as promised, we have an incredible guest lined up for you today. Our guest is a phenomenal woman. She's a lovely mother. She's a passionate advocate for healing and purpose. What's getting me particularly excited about this episode is the fact that she has gone through so much in life, but she continues to live her purpose with grace, and that's what makes her incredible. And one thing about her is she shares so vulnerably, and for me, that inspires me a lot. And I'm sure it doesn't only inspire me, it inspires a lot of other people out there. I'm excited to introduce our guest to you for today, Tiisetso Kgomo. So help me in welcoming my lovely and gorgeous guest, Tiisetso Kgomo. Did I say it right?
Yep, you did. Perfect.
Yay. Okay, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
So we're just going to get into the icebreakers.
Yeah.
Right. So the first person you contact when you get some amazing news, and what will be the opening line?
Ooh, the first person I contact when I get amazing news, probably my mom. And I'll probably go like, yo, mama. Literally.
Yeah.
After God,
Yeah.
probably my mom.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Love it. The second one, can you sum up each of your kids' personalities in one word?
Each of them. So one of each. Inquisitive and curious.
Nice.
Yep.
Love it. Okay, third one. Give a statement or words to describe Tiisetso in 2021, 2022, and 2023
2021, 2022.
for each of them.
A word for each.
Or statement
2021 and 2022.
in 2023.
Okay, 2021, I'll say timid.
Okay.
2022, breaking. 2023, one word.
Or
2023
statement.
was a statement, I'll be like the come up.
Okay. What are you anticipating for 2024?
Sure. You know the scripture that says, arise, shine? That is it. That is 2024
Love
for me.
it. Love it.
Yeah.
Last one. Can you share 3 qualities that you value in any kind of relationship?
3 qualities I value: consistency, honesty, and transparency.
Love it.
Yeah.
Talk about
So honesty,
transparency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always. Or let's say vulnerability, because honesty, So consistency, honesty / transparency, and vulnerability.
Transparency is interesting. Would you want someone who tells you the truth regardless of how bad it is?
Yes, because I'm an overthinker. So I don't want to overthink. I don't want to put words in your mouth. So I'd rather you tell me. It'll hurt.
Yeah.
But at least I don't have to now try to piece things together and
Makes
figure
sense.
out. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, you did well. Well done.
Thanks.
Well done. Let's get into it now.
Yeah.
So just to start with, for people that don't know you,
Yeah.
who is Tiisetso? What do you do? How would you describe yourself?
So this is a very hard question, guys.
It's a hard one.
It's always hard because I'm trying to shy away from when someone's like, tell me about yourself, do you tell them what you do or do you tell them who you are?
That's hard.
Really, it's tricky.
But I think it depends with who, right? Because there are times where you need to start with what you do. Because I remember there was something I was listening to where someone was saying that, and I was like, there are times where you really want to start with what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it depends. What do they want to know about me, right? And then depending on what you want to know about me, then I'm going to say it. I think with podcasts it's different.
So what do you want? What do you know? What do you want to know about me? Because I feel like if I tell you what I do, I already come as like a wall to be like, this is what I do. And I come up as that person.
Tell us what you do, ma'am.
Let me not make this difficult. My name I'm Tiisetso Kgomo. I am a mother to 2 beautiful children. A boy and a girl.
Yeah.
I love of Christ. He's my best friend. I love him so much. I am an IT professional.
Yeah.
What else? I have a ministry, a healing ministry. I'm an advocate for healing, for vulnerability and transparency. I can be a goofball when I want to. Yeah.
I can see that about you.
Yeah, I can be that. I can be very strict, but I can be very...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a bit of both.
Yeah.
It's a good balance.
I hope so.
It's a good balance.
I hope so. Yeah.
So, on the podcast generally, when people come on, I ask you who you are, right? But most importantly, I ask you about your childhood.
Yeah.
And because I think your childhood shapes who you are as a person, right? So what would you say are some of the highlights of your childhood that sort of shaped the person we see today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a family of 5, 4 for a while, and then 5. My little brother came very late, like 11 years later than me.
Oh.
Yeah. So grew up in a family of 5. I always talk about how it was good. I had a really good relationship with my dad over my mom. I mean, my moms are moms, but I had a very good relationship with my dad. Like, he's the one who told me about the birds and the bees, and my period. So I used to go to jazz festivals with my dad.
Yeah.
But as we were growing, things changed. And when they started having marital problems, and my relationship with him took a knock. So there was a lot of dysfunction in there. And then something that I think things happened that made me want to choose sides. And I chose my mom's side. And yeah, basically I grew up at some point they were separated. And I mean, it's a whole story that we can get into, but it's like a whole story. But yeah, so I grew up in that, family where I'm subconsciously picking things I don't want for myself when I grow up. So everything that I did after that was like, I don't want to end up like this. So every action, every decision that I made was based on the kind of environment that I was in. So I was the firstborn. I tell people that I feel like I was forced to grow up quicker than I should have. To take more responsibility of my emotions and all of that quicker than, being a kid, I don't think I had that opportunity. Grew up Roman Catholic.
Okay.
And got born again later, I think in 2008. Yeah. So basically that's me in a nutshell. My family, my childhood. I grew up, I feel like in the beginning it was great.
Yeah.
And then I grew up to see things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as great. When my dad passed away in 2015, we were not on good terms because of what was going on with my mom and stuff. And also how he was treating me. So, or how I thought he was treating me. Because I'm grown and I'm seeing it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I grew up angry.
Sure.
I think I grew up very angry, unforgiving. And when he passed away, I was still very much angry. And I was angry, but the Holy Spirit kept telling me, you need to forgive.
Yeah.
I think also it was just preparing me that he's going to leave. And it's harder to forgive a person who's gone than a person who's alive.
Trust me, it is. And I think I actually want to dig deeper into that because I think I can resonate with it. I think it was similar to me and my grandmother from my paternal side. So we didn't have a good relationship. And for so many years, I hadn't seen her.
Yeah.
And she passed away 2 years ago. And in the moment, I didn't know how to feel.
Yeah.
I think it was more upset rather than hurt and pain in the beginning, because I was like, surely you could have fixed things before passing away, So I think that's how I felt. But I only thought about it much later that, listen, I don't have a grandmother anymore. And the grief process began. So tell us a little bit about that. How was the relationship with your dad? And then how did you feel him passing away and not having the necessary closure as well?
Yeah. So I just when I got the call that my dad was being taken to hospital, I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. He'll get out of hospital. Remember, I still had the conviction that I need to forgive him. So I did send him a text. I think I sent him a long text before and I told him I forgave him.
Okay.
But that's not the forgiveness.
Yeah.
The work starts in how you perceive the person, your heart towards the person, like your attitude towards the person. And I still needed to work on that. And while that was going on, he passes away. I get the call and I'm like, I remember when my the pastor at home called me. He's like, you need to come home. Listen, a few hours ago, I got a call that my dad passed away. And the first thing my dad is in hospital. The first thing I asked them is, where's my mom?
Oh, you didn't think about your dad?
I didn't even think about anything happened to my dad. And he's like, you need to come home. She's like, you need to come home. Your mom is there. And I was like, oh, snap. They told me that she's gonna, he's in hospital. And I remember when I got the call, between me getting the call and him passing away, I literally went into the scripture where, the Shunammite woman crying for the child, whatever. That's the scripture I was reading. So, okay, then he passes away. The first thought I had was, but you can't leave. We have unfinished business.
Yeah, like we haven't spoken about everything.
No, I told you in text and you didn't respond properly. I still have a lot of questions. You can't pass away. I literally said, I remember a friend of mine was there, I literally said, no, he can't do that to me. Why? I was so mad that I didn't give myself time to process what had happened.
What's happening?
So I went through the whole motions of, funeral and,
And you were still like floating.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, he passed away. But I was still like, but I think I was more selfish then because I'm like, he passed away and I was told to forgive him and I didn't. It was more a me thing. He didn't give me the opportunity to clear my name. And he passes away and I still didn't grieve the way I should have. I cried, yes, because he's my dad. And I think I only started grieving last year.
So, we can't take away the fact that as much as there was a lot that was happening, right? And how you were hurt by him and you didn't get the closure you needed, right? We can't take away the fact that you still loved him.
No. Yeah.
Right? So how, like when you look back now, before we even speak about the grieving process, what are some of the memories, the good memories that you have, or some things that you can look back and say, these are the things that my father taught me? Yeah.
I think now I'm able to look back and see those things because then I was so clouded with everything that he was doing and wasn't able to separate what they had between my mom and him being my father. My dad was such a cheerleader. My cheerleader. My dad would walk into a room and he would brag about me.
Yeah.
He would, in his eyes, there was no one better than me. Like he was such oh, you want to do gymnastics? Go for it.
You can do it.
Netball? You can be in the 18. Like he was that guy. He would, I remember this one time a friend of mine was getting married and I got dressed up and I asked him how I look. And he's just like, I don't think there's anyone as beautiful as you. So you look amazing. So he was that guy for me. But because I was so mad, I couldn't receive that affirmation from him. One thing that I learned about him is to just to love people and be kind, regardless of, where they come from, their background.
Makes sense.
You treat them the same way. You treat Bill Gates the same way that you treat a cleaner at the mall. And he did that exceptionally well. And he taught us to do that. I remember that he had this thing where he would take us to sleep over at the nanny that used to work at our house, just so that we can have that experience. And he'll say, you can't always be exposed to this part. Yeah. There are other parts that you need to know so that even when you go to places, right now I can go to any place and I'll never feel like I'm better than anyone because he instilled that from a really young age. So, I
love it. And honestly, I live by that.
Yeah.
I always say you can never look down on people just because of a worldly perception of what the best person looks like, And I think that's one thing that I do. I treat everybody, to people that are taking care of our cars at the parking lot, to the president, I'm going to treat you the same, And obviously there's a place in terms of authority as well that I'll respect, but it's a matter of treatment and how you value people. I think everybody is human anyway. But now let's speak about the grieving process. How did it start and how did you get into it? Because obviously he's a father.
Yeah.
So how did you grieve him from a perspective of him being your father and not for what he had done to hurt you?
Yeah. So I think when things started becoming shaky in my marriage and I had to I just think back on why I was being the person that I was, like the insecure person. And I wasn't as confident as I used to be. And I remember when during my dad's funeral, my aunt said to us when she was saying her speech, is like, she feels like we have lost a covering. Ooh. And I think it hit me in 2022 that was it.
The covering
He covered
is gone.
me, even when I was mad. He covered me. Even when he didn't give me room to feel insecure. So now that covering was gone, I didn't feel like there's nothing I couldn't do when he was there. Even though I was mad, I knew he would be like a call away to be like, no, you can do this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Yeah.
But when he passed away, I felt like that voice went away as well, you know? So then that's when I started like, okay, first I had to now forgive him for the things that he has done and see him for who he was, a father who really was proud of me and who loved me so much. And I think when I received that for myself, I started then relating that to God. And I saw how he's such an affirmative God. Like he affirms me so much. Literally the traits that I lacked and that I couldn't see in my dad, I see so much in God. And in how he receives me as myself, in how he loves me as myself. That taught me that you didn't lose so much. You had it. Just that you didn't see it. And when God began to show me and open my eyes to it, to what I had, and say, okay, you missed the opportunity to fully embrace yourself in the love. Yeah. But here am I. Yeah? Here I am. Yeah. Here I am. Yeah. Here I am. And I'm saying, I want to give this love to you as a father first. And then I started, gradually forgiving myself, forgiving him. The hardest thing about forgiving someone who's gone is that I can't relay my heart to him.
That's hard.
And be like, I'm sorry because you were not the only, you hurt me, yes, but I hurt you too because I chose sides. I couldn't have that one-on-one conversation with him and say like, look, I know I was wrong here, but I really want you here, So it was difficult. It was difficult. And also the difficult thing is my dad passed away in 2015. I'm only grieving in 2022. Ooh. So there were limited years because, that's been a long time.
Yeah.
You still grieving?
And that's the thing. People don't actually realize that.
Because grief, there's no timeline for it.
There's no timeline.
So then you shame yourself because you're like, people have moved on already. People moved on after the funeral. Now, years later,
you're waking up in 2022 and you're like, guys, I'm starting to grieve.
It's hitting me now.
They don't get it.
No, they don't get it. And I had to also like fight the shame to be okay to say, look, I think I'm only grieving my dad right now.
And it's okay.
And to allow myself the room to say, it might not make sense to you, but I think this is what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think once the shame, withered away, I was able to be like, okay, let's go through it. Let's go through the whole, waves of feeling the pain, of achieving things and he's not there, because he wanted so much for you. You get a baby and you can call him. You're like, oh, I named my baby after you. But,
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So my ex-husband actually did. I got a job, but I can't call him. Things that you knew that will make him proud still hurts even today. Oh, you got a call. I can't call you. But it's a continuous, journey. But I think doing it with God
makes it easier.
My relation, because I allowed myself to grieve, my relationship with God has become stronger than it was ever.
That makes sense. Because I was actually going to ask you, how did your relationship with your dad and then your dad passing sort of made you start seeing God? Because God is supposed to be our father, right? Yeah. But how did it strengthen your relationship with God, or did it just also sort of take you away from God?
It did not take me away from God.
Okay.
But I have a better understanding of who God is now. So back then I was just going through God is God. God is our father, cute stuff. Yeah. But now I think I'm so intentional about my relationship with God that it's like, it's like I physically feel him. Like I physically know that he's there than what it was back then. So it's more intentional now than it was back then. Back then I felt like it was hearsay. Like we know God.
Yeah, you just
God is
hear
God. God is love.
Yeah.
God is love.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, shoot, God, you are love.
Yeah.
And
like you feel it.
Oh, you what? Like I get butterflies. You know?
I love it.
Oh, no.
But that's why I think they say there's nothing coincidental about things that we go through. I think even just how your relationship with your dad was, I think it brought you closer to God.
It did.
Because I think you having a close relationship with your dad, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I think God knew you, God knew your heart, God knew your personality, that to draw you closer to him, like even everything that happened with your dad had to happen as well.
Yeah.
I think so too. What are some of the things that you can say made you feel the home you were growing in wasn't working in terms of your parents' marriage? Did you see it only when you grew up, or was it from childhood?
You just started noticing. I started noticing the verbal abuse, the other stuff that were happening. I mean, I can't really tell my mom's story, but the things that I'd pick up and say, oh, I don't think this is the kind of family I would want for myself. And you unconsciously make pacts with yourself. I'm never going to do this.
The vows.
You vow.
Yeah.
Unintentionally. Like, oh, this is never going to be me. Or I'm never going to stand for this. I'm going to be this person. I'm going to be that person. But one of the things that I picked up and I still see now is that not having a place, a home where everybody's just open to express how they're feeling about certain things. Because, I mean, I'm in a Black family, well, in mine, your parents' word is final.
Final, yeah. You don't get to really change it.
No.
Dare you do it?
Whose roof is this?
Yeah.
So I think that kind of thing, it leaves children with so many questions. Because I can't confront you about something that I'm seeing, that I'm feeling. Ask. It's hard for me to compartmentalize it in my mind. So I put it the way I want to put it. It's either flight or flee. And had I sat down with you and I told you that I'm afraid, every time you do 1, 2, 3, I'm afraid, and you reassure me that it's not what I think, then I have a better way of compartmentalizing it, and it doesn't creep up on me when I grow, when I'm older, you know? So I think I had that thing where I put things in so much fear, like the decisions, the vows that I was making, they came from a source of fear that when I was older, the fear was what was speaking over everything that I did and how I thought and how I received myself and received other people as well. So, yeah.
I hear you. It makes sense. But then seeing as all these things that you were going through and just seeing your parents go through as well, what would you say, like, because I'm thinking of maybe you're growing up in a dysfunctional home, you're seeing all these things, there's a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
Who modeled marriage for you before we actually move into the marriage and divorce experience, right? Who modeled marriage to you? Who are some of the people that you'd look at and say, this is the kind of marriage I want for myself? What sort of expectations did you have as well?
I don't think I had.
Really?
Growing up, I don't think I had. I think because I grew up in a family, our family at large, in a family that values family. Okay. I just, in my head, it was just like, it has to happen, but it just won't happen this way.
Okay.
I have to have a family, but it shouldn't happen this way. I didn't have like, oh, but if we could be like, Jennifer and Brad Pitt. No, I didn't have I didn't have that. But I think, funny enough, I think music played a more bigger role of shaping the kind of marriage and love that I wanted than what I saw.
Makes sense.
It's the weirdest thing.
Makes sense.
The kind of music I used to listen to. It's always couples talking about love that lasts forever, taking care of each other, having kids together.
That's
literally, I look back, I'm like, oh, okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing. I think marriage definitely, like our ideas of marriage sort of stem from our observations, people, music, like you're saying, as well as cultural experiences maybe, and of course our personal experiences and expectations. So it makes sense.
I didn't have a person.
You didn't? I think
I just knew I wanted a man who can cook like my dad.
So that was your only criteria.
Because my dad could cook.
Yeah.
Mess up the kitchen,
but
could cook.
Yeah. Okay. And could your ex-husband cook?
No.
No.
He didn't. Well, he could make meat.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't really cook as much.
But that was your only expectation.
Yeah, cooking. I didn't test it out. I mean, we'll talk about it, but I just felt like, it doesn't matter. But it was a big deal back then.
Okay. It makes sense. I think I had a whole list, hey? Yeah. I remember when we were doing premarital and then they're like, okay, write your 20 expectations. And then the other person writes their 20 expectations. And then now we had to speak about them, right? So I'm like, okay, this is my first expectation of a husband. And he's telling me my husband and I in premarital, like literally fought on number 4 out of 20. Because I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. there was a lot of expectations. But, to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's speak about your marriage. Okay. And the divorce experience, Okay, I'm going to start by saying this. You are a powerhouse. You're an inspiration. Your vulnerability inspires a lot of people. The thing about social media is you always see people sharing amazing stories. Yeah. And it's so easy to get caught up in life looks perfect. Yeah. Why is my life like this? Yeah. And just listening to you speak and all the vulnerability, like the vulnerable stuff that you have shared on your platforms for me, just makes me realize how much of an impact your platforms have, So to start with though, what keeps you going in life?
Red Bull.
Okay. Definitely, me too.
Red Bull.
Yeah.
But I think I've always been it doesn't end the tragedy type of person.
Love it.
Yeah. So I always look forward to who I am after the tragedy. That's why I stayed so long in my marriage, because I couldn't wait to see how we will be after all the turmoil. So I hold on to hope. Yeah. I hold on to hope and I'm just like, should be better.
Honestly, where there's life, there's hope.
Yeah.
Where there's life, there's hope.
Exactly.
And I think it ties down to what we were speaking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Just because your dad has passed and now you're like, he's not there anymore. Yeah. So there's no hope to fix this. So yeah, it makes sense.
Definitely. So that's what keeps me going.
Okay. So now to start with, to give people background.
Yeah.
3 things. When did you get married? How long did you date? And how was the marriage?
Okay, I'll tell you how long we dated. So someone called me out on this apparently, but that's my truth. Yeah. That my husband chased for long, for about 2-3 years, right? We met at church, saw each other, and I was like, oh, cute guy. I was about to sing. I was like, cute guy. And when I found out he has a girlfriend, I was like,
oh no.
Rebound. I'm not going to do that. So I think a few months later, then we started communicating and talking and whatever. He chased from then until 2015. So in 2015, we became closer because he was going through stuff and I was going through my dad's passing, grieving, whatever that period was. Yeah, that's when we started officially, doing something. Don't know what it is that we were doing. Officially unofficial. And then in 2016, we got married, but we fell pregnant in 2016 in October.
Okay.
Yeah, we fell pregnant. And then obviously I'm highlighting that because then I want to just bring in like the disadvantages of not going in fully prepared. Obviously, yes, we wanted to get married. Yes, the plan was to get married. The lobola was supposed to be that year, and next year the big wedding. But the child was not the plan. But if you're naughty, obviously,
Of course, you were that girl.
I was not, but like it happened. Yeah, it happened.
I feel like it always happens to the good girls, honestly.
Yeah, no, it was excitement of. Finding the one, he wants to marry you. But the dating as well, I just want to highlight, was not smooth. And I think because I don't think I had the background that taught me that you can leave even a person who wants to marry you. And that's like my biggest cry even for younger people, that you can date this person. I was saying a few weeks ago on my channel that I didn't even know that dating and being in a relationship was
two different things.
Yeah. And I'm like, if I was taught that and not taught to run away from dating, because we were taught dating is a sin, and taught well what it was, I would have been able to make the right decisions at the right time. So I felt I can't leave here because we're building. And because I'm naturally I'm Tiisetso, I'm perseverance. It means perseverance. So I'll persevere, child. You can hurt me all you want. But if I see something good in you, I'll stick around. So I stuck around. Yeah. We got married. And the things that I saw when we were dating, the things that we saw when we were dating, we still saw in our marriage. We were big dreamers. Like, I always say this, that I think I wouldn't have pursued my entrepreneurial, side had I not met my ex-husband. Look, that's one thing I can tell you for free, that we were like
goal getters.
Dude, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that.
Our couple.
We gon' look. And we looked cute.
Ooh, love it.
Together. Sure.
Isn't that always a criteria?
But funny enough, I didn't see it until when we got married. I'm like,
oh wow.
You're fine though, Because just side note, I don't see looks first, but I think I gravitate to pretty people. Naturally. But I don't see it. So people will be like, oh, he's cute. And I'm like, really? I didn't see it.
Because it wasn't the first thing you were looking at.
No, I don't think I see it at first. I mean, because if I saw Bow Wow, guys, I used to have a crush on him. But anyway, back to the story. Okay, back to the story that we get married and things we were good for a little while.
Okay.
And the feeling of the goodness in that little while is what I held on to. Mm-hmm. The hope of what could be is what I held on to. Like when we were dating, marriage is forever. And I'm not about to divorce. I'm not going to perpetuate the same hurt that my mom went through, his family went through. A streak of people not getting married, people getting divorced. And You're not going to add to the statistics. I'm not. Yeah, and I know. And I knew from a very early age that even in my call in marriage, it's to break that and to bring a restoration of the image of what marriage is. And I was determined to make that marriage fall into the vision and the prophecy I got. Didn't consult God, is it? But yes. I did pray about him.
Yeah.
And even though there were things that I didn't like, I overrode them with the things that were working and could work in the future.
I think that's the thing as well.
The potential of him being that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And him being in the marriage and him showing traits of actually becoming that makes you hold on for longer.
Because you feel, he's about to change.
Yeah, no.
It looks like he's changing.
And he gives you the change now, and then tomorrow it goes back to normal. It's like, but then in your mind's like, but he did it before. For example, if he buys you flowers, he bought me flowers, and then he doesn't buy you flowers for 6 years. And you're like, but that day,
it meant something.
That day he bought me flowers. So it's just, that means there's a reason why he didn't buy it now. So it was a lot of, obviously also on my side, things that I was to him that he didn't, probably like. I said this one when I was asked to come speak, and I said that the problem is when we met, we were already bleeding. And when we got together, it's possible that God can use your rubble to create something spectacular, amazing, and restore both you and your family at large.
True.
But when you are bleeding, actively bleeding, and you are craving for someone to wipe off your blood, and you can't see that the next person also needs his blood to be wiped off, then it becomes like, okay, you don't care about what I'm feeling. You don't care about what I'm going through. So it was, it was, the other day I was writing and I said, I think I was such a bad wife because I could not support him the way that he wanted me to support him. I thought I look back, even after the divorce, I'm just like, I supported this guy so much. I did this, I did that. I sacrificed this. I lost myself, and I paused a little and I'm like, but is that how he wanted your help? as a helpmeet. So I went through the grief of hating him, regretting being married to him, and coming back to, okay, now you need to prepare yourself for the journey ahead. You know, that when you were in that marriage, this is what happened. But how can you like better
yourself
part
as well?
Because I can't change what he did to me.
No.
Painful as it was, I can't change. And it's still, I mean, even today, I struggle with the things that I went through in my marriage. But the only thing I can help myself with is changing the things that I know needs to change in me.
I think that's the thing, because to some extent you're going to have to reflect as well and look into yourself and say, what are some of the things that I actually did as well? Because I think as people, we have that whole thing of someone said when you are, I don't remember who it was, when you're pointing a finger at somebody for pointing at you, you know, and I think it's fine. We know somebody hurt you, but it's also, what is it in me that I need to change? And even things that you could have picked up from the pain and the hurt that this person caused as well, that you can end up carrying to the next person. And I also like what you spoke about when you said, I stuck into the relationship even when I could see things are happening. And I think that's, I don't know if it's an African thing or a Christian thing, because
it's both.
It's both, right?
Lethal.
It really is. It's hectic. It's toxic. And I feel naturally as Africans, and I think it comes from our parents, when they see you're in a committed relationship, it's almost like you can't come out of it. And I always say that for me, a relationship is not a marriage. And it's better a broken relationship than a divorce. Right? Because now I think with a relationship, you've not really committed yourself as much. And even with the baby being there, and babies are a gift for me, out of wedlock or in marriage.
No, they are.
They're still a gift, right? And I think it's a matter of, do I have to get married just because now there's a baby in the picture? And some people do that because now people think about, there's a baby in the picture. I need all my kids to have one dad. So I need to get married to this person, you know? But I think it comes with its own pain sometimes if you're not ready. And sometimes it's a timing thing as well. You don't know. Maybe if you guys waited for 2 more years, you could have gotten into a healthy relationship.
Definitely.
And everything would have been fine because you just lost your dad. And like he's saying, he was bleeding as well. So there's already a strain in the foundation.
Sure.
And it's more like you're getting into something that's already messed up and you're trying to find healing from each other. And when you're both broken, it's hard to find healing from each other.
I mean, the thing is, brokenness is inevitable in everyone. And we can't fully say I went into a marriage fully healed.
True.
Because there are things I say to people, I'm like, there are things you will only experience in a marriage that you will not experience in your dating
That I
stage,
agree.
You know? And God brings those things to highlight, obviously, what still needs to be healed. But you can still do it harmoniously. Like you can still do it together. And the understanding of the fact that you're not fighting your spouse. You're not fighting yourself. And I think because I'll speak for myself, I think because we're just indoctrinated in a sense, pain is bad.
Yeah.
And there are certain feelings that we don't give room to confront because immediately your mind tells you they are bad. You know, for example, like we're talking about the African culture and stuff, you know, I've heard a lot of people say, when a man goes out, you must not ask where they are. Don't even, just, you know, they went out.
True.
But then now they make you feel like the feeling you have when your man is out
is invalid.
Now you don't confront it and you keep it in. And it shows up in another way. But the problem is, no, you had a problem with him going out and you could have just said, I'm confronting, giving room for this. Tell him, look, in a healthy way, this I don't like. But you can't say that because you don't want to be first an insecure person. You don't want to be an insubmissive wife. So there are certain things that I realize that, especially when it comes to feelings, that we've demonized feelings so much. Like even as Christians, like we don't allow ourselves to feel because immediately when we feel something, we go into the negative. And once you go into the negative, then you've lost.
That's true.
Because you can't dissect it. You can't even get the root of it. And now because of that, you become defensive. because now I'm feeling this negative thing. Why am I feeling this negative thing? I can't feel this negative. Look, I'm Naki. What do you mean? I can't feel sad.
Yeah.
I can't be depressed for some,
It's
you know.
hectic.
So then we cover up, and then that's where the fighting becomes even intense.
Comes in, yeah. I agree. And I think, like you're saying, I was minding my own business, but you mentioned something. It's like with submission.
Yeah.
You know, with submission, right? I'm looking at it as, I think for women, it's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
But when we're speaking about cultural expectations and even some Christian values as well, I think like from Zambia, for example, you get taught a lot of a woman doesn't speak, you know, you put stones in your mouth, you keep quiet. And that's not allowing for communication in marriage. And you're building all those things.
Yeah.
And I think as a woman, it's really hard to submit to a man who is not showing aspects of lordship.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe another thing I need to ask you based on your previous marriage, do you feel you were fully submissive? And if not, why weren't you?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because, okay, I'll say yes, because I had an idea of what submission was.
Okay.
And I stuck through to that idea. So you can't say I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's what I know.
Yeah.
Right?
That's all you had.
That's all I had.
Yeah.
No, because he also had an idea of how submission should look like for me.
Yeah.
Right? So I didn't do right by him.
Okay.
But I thought I did right by myself. But in hindsight, when I think about it and what submission means to me right now, because if we get into that conversation,
it's a conversation on its own. Yeah.
And it boiled down to a question that the Holy Spirit asked me when I was married. And he said to me, the Bible says that submit unto your husband as unto the Lord.
Amen.
As unto the Lord. So how I'm submitting to the Lord is how I should be submitting to him.
Yeah.
Now, my relationship with God when I was married was in shambles.
I
prayed. I did Christianity. I did that Christian thing. I served.
Just a religious
I served. Act. I prayed. But my relationship with him, as my father, as my Lord,
non-existent.
Now, how will I expect to know how to submit to another man?
That's an amazing point you're actually bringing. I'm
not submitting to him. So everything else was headspace, was coming from my headspace. It was like head knowledge of what I think submission is. But had I submitted fully to God, it would have come naturally because already I have an example of what submission looks like. But I didn't have that.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I actually love that because I've never thought about it that way. You know, just looking at how you view God is how you will sort of view your husband. And sometimes even with God, we say God is God. God is my Lord. But are you making him Lord in every aspect of your life? You know, it's one thing to just go to him when you want something and when you just want to pray and tick a box. But it's another thing to say you are Lord overall in every aspect of my life. But tell me, so this is Tiisetso. So you've gone through, you know, a dysfunctional home situation. You've had all those traumas. You've gone through pain. And obviously, it's a lot that has gone on, right? So do you think you fully showed up in your marriage as a wife, as a mother as well? How did your past sort of affect the person that you were in the marriage?
I don't think I showed up fully. I thought I was, but I was depleted. I was showing up depleted. I was showing up empty because somewhere along the lines, I lost who I was becoming, chasing who I thought I should be.
Sure.
So even in the moments of trying and, you know, in the marriage, I rushed the process to always become who I'm expected to be, you know, so I couldn't show up one of the things that I regret a lot is that I was trying so much to become who I thought my husband wanted me to be that I couldn't become the person I wanted to be to my children and to myself. Someone said to me, don't, and you know, I wish I took that advice before I got married. She said to me, don't ever think that you are unlovable.
Ooh.
And I think somewhere deep down, I thought I was unlovable, that I had to show up if Naki wants to see me as a pink girl, I have to make sure that my hair is pink, my
You show
lashes are
up
pink,
that way.
so that you can kind of accept me as that person and I feel you love me because I'm showing up as that person. So I showed up, yeah. I did show up.
But not as Tiisetso.
But not as Tiisetso. I showed up out of fear, of resentment, of rejection, of abandonment. So because if I don't show up as that pink girl, you're not going to love me. You're not going to want me. So I spent my marriage looking to be who I was told I should be, constantly being told, you're not this, you're not that. Why aren't you this? Why aren't you that? So I constantly had to shape myself to be that person. And in so doing, I lost so much of who I actually am. To a point, the other day, I mentioned the color pink because I love it.
Yeah.
I cried because I was just like, no, I like the color pink.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to tell me anything. That's, every girl likes pink. No, I
actually do like it.
And I cried
that
because
was me at some
it was
point.
it was something where I was just like, no, it makes me happy. You know, because a friend of mine bought me flowers and I'm just like, and the colors that I love pastel, soft pink colors, and like, oh my gosh. And I cried because I'm just like, I can't believe I deprived myself of being me because I thought someone else won't accept me fully. So yeah.
Sure, this hectic, hey? Like, that's a very touchy topic. I feel like that's another... Tiisetso is bringing us other topics, yeah. Because, you know, I'm thinking about it because I think even the whole imposter syndrome thing, I think it stems from the fear of rejection sometimes, or you just not thinking you're enough.
Yeah.
You know, but where do you think your fear of rejection stemmed from? Because then even when we look at your relationship with your dad, it wasn't a rejection issue, was it? So where do you think the fear of rejection stemmed from?
I think I'm still trying to figure out exactly where. I mean, I say healing is such a weird journey. One moment you're like, oh, now I get it. And the next you're like, but I don't even get why. Where does this come from? But I think I always tell the story about how when I was younger, grade 1, and I was going to an award evening.
Yeah.
And they called up my name and apparently, and then when I went up and people were cheering, I've always been very confident, outspoken and stuff. So I'm walking on the stage, get my rewards. They called me more than once, I think 3 times or something. And I was just entertaining people because they were laughing. I was thinking, I'm the star of the show, you know? Then afterwards, I went to my parents and with my trophies and my certificates, and the first thing they said to me was, what were you doing? Why were you walking like that on stage? Why?
Ooh.
So immediately I was like, my mind interpreted that as there's a certain way you show up that won't make people like you. It will make people laugh at you. So don't fully be yourself. Be yourself, but a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that worked in so many areas in my life that I didn't want to show up fully as a, you know, because if I do, they won't like me. If I'm this, they won't like me. I remember there's a vivid image I keep having, and I think obviously as I'm going through the journey, the Lord will show me what it is, of me being in primary as well. And I started crying around my friends and I said, you guys must just tell me if you don't want to be my friend. Oh, where does it come from? But I felt the emotion, how I felt like these people don't like me. They're just tolerating me. So I will be very skeptical of people around me that you don't like me. You're just here. You can leave anytime. You can literally leave anytime. Yeah.
I'm someone you can easily drop. I think it's a mix of both, right?
Yeah.
I really trust my instinct so much that if I really feel someone doesn't like me, they probably don't.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, again, it can come from a fear of rejection, you know, but I think it's like just knowing how to balance it.
It's being highly discerning.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yes.
So, and having to balance the two, that this is your emotion and this is you're discerning something. Yeah. So
that's true.
And I think I've always had that from a young age. So growing with that is like, okay, you need to know that, okay, there are certain ways that you feel certain things, and that's discernment. And others, they are informed by your own emotions.
True.
Yeah.
True. And I think we do underestimate sometimes the things that we have gone through as children.
Yeah.
And how they shape the person that you become today.
Yeah.
But I always say as well, regarding people and sometimes how you feel or the energy that you sense around people, I think if someone likes you, they will like you anyway. And regardless of how you show up, they'll either correct you or they will, tolerate you or be able to speak to you about things, right? Say, okay, friend, I don't like this, and we move on from it. And of course, if there's no change, then they can
decide to put you out
as well. But then I also think if someone just doesn't like you, regardless of how you show up,
no matter what you say, how you. Sometimes though, I feel like people dislike you because you are scratching a wound in them they're not ready to deal with.
Broken people.
So it's like, oh, okay. I always say that a broken heart will always hear a different thing. Like,
true.
And it will say something different than what it actually is. Yeah. So I guess it's that. It's a bit of both.
It's a bit of both. Yeah. It's a bit of, okay. So we shifted a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
So, so tell us a bit about, so, with your divorce, it's happened. How did it unfold? And also, how did you get to a point of healing and acceptance? Because like you were saying, you're that person who sticks around.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's happening, you're going to stick around. And I think as Christians as well, because we have that thing at the back of our head that says God hates divorce. You're like, I'm not going to divorce. You're making vows with yourself. And you're like, regardless of what happens, I'm still going to stay here. So how did the healing unfold? And did you ever feel like, maybe I'm just going to have to stick here forever, regardless of what's happening,
So like I said, is that I look forward to the end of the tragedy. So that's what kept me in my marriage.
Yeah.
And even when things were bad, even when I just knew that right here, I don't know what I'm holding on to.
Yeah.
But I held on to hope so much that things will get better. And when you're married and you're Christian and you get these nice prophecies about how your marriage will be like the best, and then you are engaging in certain prayers because you are, and when you pray, you can't just pray having doubt, So I immersed myself in the hopes of God restoring my marriage. Look, I would be praying. I would be begging the Holy Spirit, God, change his heart. I'll be doing all the Christian things that happened, and I was in denial at first because I held on to what God has said to me about my call for marriage so much that I said, I don't want to inflict any kind of doom on my lineage. The divorce thing, like, now we're perpetuating what we already seen when we were growing up. And that was a big thing for me. I was like, I don't want my children to grow up in that. I don't want my children to grow up in a dysfunctional family. I don't want my children to grow up in a non-linear family. Like then there's like multiple houses and how's that going to work? I had a fear of that. And I stayed because of the fear. So it was a fear of missing what God was doing in the season and the fear of what could be. So I was more afraid of what the end could look like. Because my husband my ex-husband came like 3 times in our marriage. He's like, he wants a divorce. And I was like, no.
The devil is trying to play with my marriage.
And the devil hates marriages.
He does.
And he came the first time and he said horrible things to me. Second time, but I still stayed because I'm just like, the devil is using him. Fire in the name of Jesus.
And we will change him. Prayer will change him.
Prayer will sort you out, And there came a time where the acceptance happened while I was still married. I don't remember what we were trying. It was 2022. What was that? Yeah, 2022. And we were trying to fix our marriage after a huge fallout that happened that broke me. Like, what actually made me want to just give up on my life. And we were fixing our marriage and something happened where he would always go back and blame me for things. And I'm like, I feel like I'm in a museum and the sculptures and the pictures that I put up are all my mistakes. The only way out is out of the museum.
Sure.
Because I'll turn and still see the mistakes. I'll still see the sculpture that, reminds me how not enough of a person I am. That even the efforts that I'm making are not enough. And I remember I was on the bed, I was listening to the song, I'm no longer a slave to fear. And I'm like, what exactly am I afraid of? I had to write, I think I wrote it in 3 pages of my journal. What are you afraid of? I said a whole lot of things in that journal, but none of them actually alluded to the actual fear. It just showed a lack of trust in God.
Oh.
Yeah. It was just that I didn't trust God with my life.
You didn't trust God enough to take you out of that season and carry you.
I blamed him for my marriage. I was like, I trusted you with this marriage. And look at where I am right now. So how am I going to trust you outside of it? And I didn't know that's what I was going through. And then I remember I said, you know what? It's fine. I started talking to people, but I left it as well. And I wrote my ex-husband a long letter. Look, should have given you this divorce a long time ago. You don't want to be here. And I can see it. And it does an injustice to me and our kids for me to keep you where you don't want to be. You are done. So I want a divorce.
It's hard to keep someone who's emotionally checked out.
Yeah. Everything. And I told him, I'll give you your divorce. I think I'm ready.
Ooh.
Gave it to him. And it was the first time he heard me say, I want out. And he didn't want that. He didn't grant me that.
I feel he's giving me narcissist vibes.
As a shoe fits.
Because generally, I think that's how it is. When they have the power, it's like, okay, I'm going to keep pressing on because I know she doesn't want to go. Then the moment she's standing up for yourself and you say, listen, I'm ready to go and I'm taking everything that belongs to me and I'm out. That's when they start saying, oh, really now? Are you going to leave? You know? So it's interesting what you're saying. But I think you touched on prophecy again. And a lot of people do get prophetic messages on marriage. But the thing about marriage and relationships is there's so much free will that God has given us. And as much as someone can say, Tiisetso, so you and this person are supposed to be together, they still have the choice to be there or to remain that person who you met them as, right? And I think we always say that, oh, marriage is unconditional love, but I honestly think it's conditional. It's a covenant, but it's conditional. There's a reason I got married to you. Yeah. And that is what will keep or break the marriage, depending on whether it remains or it goes. So I think for me, it's a lot of, yes, the prophecy could have been right. There's a lot of prophetic words even around career that you get, but it's what you do with that prophetic word that you've received, right? If God says you're going to make millions, for example, you can't expect to make millions when you are passive, right? Yeah. You have to do something. You have to be working. But before we get into, because I wanted to ask you, during this whole thing that you're going through, did you lose any friends? Because I know you also share vulnerably on you trying to commit suicide. Did you have any people around you? What was happening?
So I've always had friends around me, very good friends. And I think in I don't really think I shared this about this part of my life, but in 2022, when I decided, so look, there was a huge thing that happened and most of my friends are like, you're not going to go back there. You can't go back there. You have to choose yourself. And when that's being said and you choose to go back, you carry the shame of, do I tell them I'm back? You know? And side note, I'm so glad I went through that because now I have the compassion for someone who goes through that who goes back and I'll know exactly how they are feeling. And I won't make them feel like, you went back there? Ciao.
Aren't you the one who was saying?
Yeah, you were crying. So I went back in 2022 and I think that's when my friendships started becoming really, shaky. I didn't share that I was going back. I just went back and my focus was, I'm going to fix my marriage. If my ex says that my friends are the problem, I'll put them in the back seat and focus on fixing this. We have so much to fix. Like, I don't have to worry about my friends right now. So a lot of my friends fell off then. A lot of them still feel hurt that I pushed them away. And some still feel like, maybe they were not being enough for me in that season. But honestly, I feel in that season, my focus was to make sure this works.
It was about the marriage.
2 kids. Yeah, it was. I have 2 kids. A friend of my one of the friends once said to me, I like how you are committed to, help, getting back to your marriage and stuff. But why can't you have the same effort for your friends? And that upset me, obviously. I was just like, these things, they're not the same.
Compare.
You can't compare. My marriage, But yeah, I have good friends. I have good friends. And I think I was so broken that I couldn't lift up my head for anything else.
I hear
I was
you.
so submerged in the brokenness and in the just giving it my all in that marriage that I didn't have time for anything else, not even myself. So how can I be friends to people when I myself? Yeah. And I constantly just had my ex's voice in my head most of the times when I have to go see my friends or something. And yeah, because of a whole lot of things of control that were happening, it was very hard for me to cultivate good friendships then. Those who stayed, they stayed. Those who left, and also I just feel like the expectation from them for me to become who I couldn't become in that season was a bit unfair for me.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't be that. And I think I once had a conversation with one of my friends when, the fallout happened.
Yeah.
But we're good. We're good now. And I told him, like, my mistake was always showing up to you guys as the strong girl. Because I couldn't keep up when I was breaking.
That's the thing.
She couldn't come back. That girl who bounces back immediately, who's always, let's do this. No, she couldn't. She was dead.
You are broken as well.
I was so broken that I couldn't show up as that strong girl. And I told him, like, it's impossible for me to become that friend in this season.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's really hard. I always say to people, extend grace to your friends that are married, because there are times where you hear people say, oh, no, you're different. When you got
Now
married,
that
we
you're
can
married.
still meet you.
Yeah.
And for some people, now that they're married, they're different, but you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what battles they're fighting. And only if you're a friend who is a true friend and in touch with God, you probably can sense or tell that something is going on, you know. And I think even from your story, it's more about, I always say to people, traumas can either trap you, or they can shape you, you know. So they can trap you in the sense that you can choose to define yourself by who you were or everything that happened in your past, right? Or you can decide to learn from your experiences to know who you are now and know that you still have a future and a purpose to live, right? So would you say now you're at a point of healing as well? And maybe even at that, you can sort of share a little bit about how the suicide thoughts came in and you attempting suicide as well, and just how you got to a point of healing.
Yeah. So I think let me start with the suicide and then cover that. I think with me having suicidal thoughts is because I had checked out. I'd lost myself so much. And back to the museum with the pictures and the sculptures, I couldn't see past the wrong. I felt like my kids are better off without me. If this person is saying I'm this, then he'll be a better parent than me. And his life will be better. He did say I ruined his life. So, there was just so many things, so many thoughts that came into my mind. And I was like, I'm also very tired of resultless prayer.
Sure.
I'm okay. I love you. You accept me in heaven or you don't, it's fine. I'm done.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I also wanted to do was that I didn't just want to die in silence. I wanted to hurt my husband. I'm like, when I'm gone, I told him, when I'm gone, you will realize how much of a good wife I actually was. because I tried my best. And only when I'm gone, only when it's just you and these kids, you'll see that I did try to be there. I did my all. So I just want to remove myself, because he was like, I'm a curse. I'm like, I'll remove the curse. But let's see how your life is then after this, when I'm dead. Not even divorced, dead, you know. And yeah, I think the last straw was when he kicked us out of the house, me, basically. And I remember when I was looking for apartments, I didn't have money.
Yeah.
I didn't have money. I was like, I can't go back home. All my business is at the side.
Yeah.
What will I do? I remember after viewing the place, and I'm thinking, okay, if an apartment is 5.5, it means I have to work 1, 2, 3, see 1, 2, 3 clients, and then that's how I'm going to do it. And then I sat in the car, and I'm like, no, I don't want this life. I don't want the life of having faith and nothing coming to pass.
Yeah.
Because I had faith in my marriage. Nothing came to pass. Now I must have more faith for a new life. But what if it doesn't work out? So I was just like,
yeah,
love you, Lord. Meet me in heaven. Took an overdose, ended up in hospital. Can I tell you, I don't remember half the things that happened. I know I went into the apartment where my ex-husband was. He chased me out, yes, but I went there, and I remember seeing him angry, saying, what do you want? I'm like, I just want to sleep. I don't want to fight with you. I just want to sleep. And he says I wanted to frame him. Why would I frame him with pills in my system? But anyway, so yeah, that's all I remember. And how I ended up in hospital, I don't know. But I remember when I woke up, I was not happy about it. I was like, oh, you rejected me too?
You took me back.
Like, you don't want me in heaven? I saw my mom, and I was just like, what are you doing here? It took me 3 weeks to realize that I'm still here because God has a greater purpose for me. But all the other weeks, I was just like, I should have tried harder. And people who came like, think about your kids. I'm like, they make me even more stressed because I've been deemed unfit to be alive right now. So, and then right now, I think going back to why I'm alive has helped me see things differently.
Yeah.
And that the enemy was just after my voice. Him coming after my identity is to shut up my voice.
Yes.
And to actually come to a point where I understand that this voice is so important. It's so important to whatever God is doing in his kingdom. So it brought me up to a place of like, I have to be intentional about bringing myself back to amplifying this voice. So I think I'm at a point where I'm healing. And it's such a sweet and sour experience where, some of these traumas come up and you don't know how to show up to your friends, even like, potentials, because you're just like, how am I going to do this? But that journey has been like, I think for me, it's like I've made it so personal that it's just not about reading quotes and saying, oh, this resonates with me. But it's actually going deeper with the Holy Spirit, with God, and to say, I can't heal myself from this. I can't quote myself out of it.
It can only be you.
It can only be you, and it can only be my determination to make sure I don't stay the same.
Love it.
That can help me.
Love it. No, you're incredible, sis. I told you this enough times today. And I'm really glad that you're not letting your past define you. You're not letting everything that has happened shape the person that you are into, I just want to stay into this bubble of pain and hurt. But you are using all that to define and to grow your purpose, and to just show that there is a purpose that God created me, and my life experiences are not a coincidence, So just before we go, we just want you to tell everybody, what do you think living in fullness means to you? Just in a statement or two. What is to live in fullness?
For me, living in fullness means forsaking all other voices that are not of God and hearkening to His. Because that's where you become. That's where you behold Him, and you literally are transformed by beholding Him. Living in fullness is literally saying, I am trusting what you're doing in this season, in this pain, in this joy, and I'm going to walk according to that. And yeah, it's living in hope, man. It's literally, yeah.
Oh, thank you. You're amazing. So we've run out of time, and I'm going to put all your pages as well.
Yeah.
And you've got amazing YouTube pages. I spoke about them earlier, so I'm just going to put them in the description box as well. And thank you so much for fully showing up. You're amazing. And thank you to our lovely viewers for being with us. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. And please do follow Tiisetso. So I'll put her handle in the description box. Love you all.